Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of A Bigger Bite, where we take a deeper dive into all of your movie and TV show needs, loves, all that fun stuff. And today, we're talking about Spider-Man, right? No. That's Daredevil, Born Again, Season 2. I'm taking this off because holy shit, it is hot, and I can't see for shit. But we got a special guest with us today. We have Monty from the Montyverse.
Hello.
The Marvel guy, honestly. I've known him for a few years now, so we're glad to get him on A Bigger Bite. And of course, we got myself, we got Amarú, and we got Nick. And I'm excited to dive into this to this season of Daredevil Born Again Season 2 with y'all. But first, Monty, how you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm glad you mentioned Spider-Man because after that finale, he's on Fraud Watch. Major New York catastrophe going on. And Peter is probably at the coffee shop staring at MJ longingly. But no, I love Spider-Man. But yeah, we had to do something there.
Yeah. Nick, how are you doing today?
I am doing all right. I do not have the helmet of a blind superhero, so I'm just here in my hat and glasses.
Well, that's because you're blind as it is anyways.
Yeah.
Amarú, how are you doing today, sir?
This is all that matters.
Oh, Jesus
and
Christ.
will matter today. You talk about New York catastrophes, but in a good way. Mitchell Robinson, you are the man. We love you, and thank you for the beautiful posters we will be having for the next year. Thank you. We appreciate it. Go New York. Go New York. Go.
Should have known that was going to happen. Should have known that was going to happen.
That would be so funny if, like, New York, the round's still going, right? It's 3-0?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's 3-0.
That'd be so funny if Philly came back and we held this episode until Philly won and then started it with Rue.
That is the luck that happens with us, and now that's going to be in my head for the rest of the time. But you know what? That post is worth it.
All right.
Yeah, we got to go back to talking about New York victories.
Yeah,
like
New York
Daredevil.
victories. Man, so listen. I'm gonna preface this. Monty and I got to, and Nick, but Monty was the first person I talked to. We got the critics' copies before the show aired, like a week before it aired. So Monty was one of the first people that I talked to about this. So I know he and I have some thoughts that were like, that's interesting. But Amarú, we're gonna start with you since you're the person who has the freshest view on this. What were your thoughts on season 2 of Daredevil Born?
Overall, I really enjoyed the season. I definitely think it is a step up from season 1. It's been a long time since I've run through the Netflix shows, and I love the not fully rose tinted, but the very rose tinted glasses, because when the Netflix shows were released, there were a lot of complaints about those seasons one by one. And now it's like the Holy Grail. It's a Holy Grail to me. I love them. I loved all these seasons. I do think Born Again does not live up to the Netflix series. I'm not gonna say not live up to. Netflix seasons are still better than Born Again, but I think season 2 is what we wanted. We wanted the mix of what the grittiness that the Netflix shows brought and the newness, I guess.
The Disney-ness, the
Disney,
MCU-ness.
Yeah, it's a mix. It's finally a mix. And I really enjoyed this season. Monty said it before we jumped on. It's not a perfect season. There's definitely things I'll say, especially about that finale, that I'm like, that's not that didn't hit as hard as I wish. But here's what I love. They actually gave the ensemble something to do. And when Matt and Wilson were not on screen, I did not want to go back to Matt. I did not need to go back to them. And second, where they left off, I am very excited. So not only am I excited for next week or a couple of days from now for my man, Mr. Frank Castle screaming his ass off again and something else as a continuation of this, but also whatever they're going to do for season 3 on, it felt like, yes, we're back. We're continuing with, let's go. I was very much a fan of this season.
Monty, what did you think of this season?
I really enjoyed it. Like Amarú said, I think this is a step up from season 1. It's hard not to be a step up from season 1 just because of how much of a mess that season was. It was an enjoyable mess, but there's no divorcing it from the fact that it was a Frankenstein season of television. And I think this season, while still improving upon all of the mistakes of season 1, is still having to deal with the fallout of creative choices that were in play before this team was on the show. Like we said, the ensemble that we were given in season 1 were, some of them were very one notes, some of them were very flat characters. And in this season, we see the writing and those storylines amplified so well, and the actors getting to actually breathe life into these characters. Case in point, Michael Gandolfini's Daniel Blake is probably one of the best characters in season 2 of Daredevil Born Again, and he has one of the best arcs of the season. But I really view season 1 and 2 as like saga 1 of Daredevil Born Again. It's hard really to look at season 2 without looking at it as part of a 2-season story, just because everything is so connected. And when looking at it that way, it's funny to compare it to like the Netflix shows, because they went into this series wanting to do something different. That's why they use anthropomorphic lenses. That's why they make everything feel bigger and more cinematic, because they wanted to give it a different scale than the Netflix show. And yeah, some people don't like that look and that feel, but that's what they wanted to do. And they showed us this season, if they want it to look like the Netflix show, they really could make it look exactly like the Netflix show. But I think with this story they were trying to tell, they wanted to add cinematic scale to it. And I think they succeeded for the most part in this season.
Nick, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the big thing about this season is season 1, even though it was a Frankenstein together season, it felt like this is Disney trying to figure out what their way of doing the Netflix show was. And season 2 feels like their way of doing Daredevil is. And those are very different things. Like, there are allusions to the Netflix show and things similar to it, but it's not trying to be that. This does feel like a wholly singular series. And I think it's way better off for that than trying to create Disney's version of the Netflix show season 4, which is what Born Again kind of felt like at times. It was aiming to be, at least.
No, and I would agree with a lot of that. I mean, I think one of the biggest mistakes Disney made in this whole process was initially like, oh no, the Netflix stuff isn't canon. And then they got to this point where they're like, fuck, we can't figure things out. We just need to say, hey, this is going to be canon. We have no other way out of this. And we have to figure out how to fit this in, even though it was fit in pretty well to begin with, because the Netflix shows did acknowledge some of the stuff that had gone on in the greater MCU earlier on. But season 2 of Born Again, I liked so much more than season 1. Yes, season 1's a Frankenstein monster, as we brought up numerous times already, but I still enjoyed it overall. But you can clearly see, oh, this is a different tone all throughout. You're like, oh, this feels different than this. Whereas this, I felt everything was a consistent tone. You got an idea of what they were going for. Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are just eating in this season, like absolutely just devouring everything, like the scripts, the action. I remember when I was watching, because I watched it all in a day. I remember when I was watching the episode where he's freeing all the people who the task force had locked up, and I was like, oh, we're really trying to make it feel like the Netflix show now. All right, cool. They are not holding back, which is something I'm not used to with stuff on Disney Plus, because it's always been kind of like, hey, we're still gonna aim for the family friendliness of it all, and they're dropping F-bombs casually, and it's like, oh yeah, okay. And if it was season 1, I'd be like, wow, I'm kind of shocked they did that. But now that we've evolved, I'm like, all right, you are respecting the roots of the show and understanding we got to let this be very similar to what it was, but still find it within our own footing. And I've really enjoyed the balance that they found, especially in this season.
I think that's something that a lot of that credit goes to Deadpool and Wolverine. Because I think like everyone viewed Deadpool as a Marvel property, but it was done under the Fox banner. And when Disney did the Deadpool and Wolverine movie and it was successful, and you got to see that it wasn't this neutered version of Deadpool, I think that opened up the doors for
absolutely
R-rated superhero storytelling going forward. Not just in Daredevil, but hopefully like The Punisher, I expect to be a very brutal series. And maybe some more to come.
Yeah, I mean, this Daredevil return has been in the works for a while, so I think that they were always aiming to do something. Even before Deadpool and Wolverine with these characters, they just couldn't for 2 years after the Netflix shows were canceled. There was a 2-year non-compete, but they were always looking to bring Daredevil, or a 2-year lapse in the contract where they weren't allowed to make TV shows with featuring the characters. And I think once they realized that, and this is why season 1 of the show is such a mess, then they took this idea that they had, that they wanted to make a procedural superhero television show, and they said, what characters can we use to do that? And they said, oh, the guy who's a lawyer. And I think that's where things started to become messy in season 1, because this is not a procedural TV show type of character.
It's not.
If you look at the best Daredevil runs in the comics, like the ones that this show is heavily based off of, like the Frank Miller or the Brian Michael Bendis runs of the character, those are all really long form dramas. And that's when these characters operate best. And I think they knew that. So the thing that really saved this character was probably the strike, and getting that long absence and being able to look at the dailies and go, this show's a mess. We need to fix it. And that led us into a reformed season 2 that very much from start to finish felt like they were trying to tell a long form drama story. And I think for the most part, it worked.
Yes.
It definitely works. I still remember the announcement when they said this was going to be an 18 episode full one season. Like, y'all really are like really going to make this go on forever. So seeing that split and how the second half actually feels like more like what they wanted to do, it's great. For me, funny enough, even though it's not a procedural, the courtroom stuff was some of the best stuff of this entire season. Like every single courtroom and everything surrounding the courtroom was, I think, the most dramatic, the most well acted, the most well put together. Like, honestly, if you cut out the action and just make it a courtroom drama, that would have been a like tonally consistent, acting wise, everything. Like, they made me like Jacques Duquesne. Like, I didn't like the swordsman.
Oh, that's on you. I loved him.
Let me rephrase. It's not that I didn't like him, but I was like, he's here, he's fine, he's there. Like, I loved Hawkeye. I loved the show, and when he showed up, I was like, okay, cool, that's fine. Every time he appeared, it was like, this is the dude from Better Call Saul. This is why you hired Tony Dalton, because he is such a charismatic dude. And when he just quoted those lines when it was not when he was found guilty, it was just like, yes, this is what we wanted. This is how you make everybody on this show and all these actors like show what they can do. And then I don't know, the fact that the action was great, and the set pieces were a hell of a good time. Shout out to Wilson Bethel, because you talked about Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio. Wilson Bethel might have just took the season from the both of them, and then both of them are always brilliant. But damn, was he good!
I see Monty smiling. He's a big bullseye guy. I know this.
Yeah, I agree. Wilson Bethel was great. I was going to push back a little bit, because you said if you remove the action from this season, it would be totally consistent. I think what makes this show so great is it leans into the contradictions of the character of Daredevil. I think the action is necessary in this season because it's telling the story, and it's very integral to the arc that Matt goes through from season 1 until now, especially at the beginning of the season. You talk about the brutality in episode 3 when they release the prisoners. What about the boat scene on the Northern Star when he's breaking arms and he's punching people until they're basically concussed? And he's showing a lot less restraint than we're used to him showing when he's fighting. And that's because, we see the black suit. He's leaned into more of the shadows, the lawlessness, the vigilante side of himself. And he's kind of Daredevil full time now. And I think these action scenes, as you see them change and evolve as the season goes on, it shows the change and evolve in Matt's character as well. So I think we could talk about the actors all we want. Me personally, I think Michael Gandolfini is in that conversation for giving one of the best performances of the season. Just like, if you watch him, man, it's very clear that he is one of the best and brightest, and he has a very successful future ahead of him, because just like the micro expressions that he does in scenes is so impressive for someone like him. And I really loved getting to see him really come into a compelling story for Daniel, especially towards like the midpoint of the season. I really love seeing him portray that. But you got to give props to the entire cast and crew. This crew is insane. There was stuff from, I mean, not to talk about season 1 again, but there was stuff for the reshoots in season 1 that they filmed in July for a show that was releasing the first week of March 4th, March 4th, and they still got all of that stuff done, and turned around. And the ability for these people to film a show like this in New York, on the streets of New York, on a TV schedule, is actually really crazy. I don't think people really fully understand the coordination and skill it takes to do something like that.
Let the New Yorker cook. Continue.
Of course. You know, I have to give props to my New York crews, my New York, all the people here, all the wonderful people in New York filming, because they're some of the best, man.
Well, you talked about Michael Gandolfini, and I'm gonna pimp out Monty's stuff here. He did a beautiful video talking about the allusions to The Sopranos in the scene with Buck and Daniel as they're going on this journey to bury a body. And you're absolutely right. And I'm gonna be honest, Michael Gandolfini got it honest. Listen, when they cast him as a younger version of his dad in Many Saints of Newark, while the movie itself is okay at best, I enjoyed him in it. Like, this kid's got a future. And anything I've seen in him, whether it be Warfare, whether it be Daredevil Born Again, I've loved him in it. But Monty, if you'd be willing to, you want to go a little bit into that scene, because again, you did it so eloquently before in your own video.
Oh, you're talking about the scene with Buck?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that, like, if you just look at the shots they use and just the setup, I do think there's definitely allusions to that episode of The Sopranos, long-term parking, which is one of the greatest episodes of television of all time. It's the episode with, spoiler alerts, if you haven't watched The Sopranos, I don't know what to tell you. Go watch that show. It's one of the greatest TV shows of all time. Right. It's the episode in which Christopher has to make a choice, you know, between being loyal to Tony or being loyal to himself and his girlfriend, and he makes the wrong. Well, we as the audience don't know what choice it is, but there's allusions to that. There's visual callbacks and allusions to that in this episode, and I think the show uses that subconsciously for fans of that show to make us think that Daniel's going to get killed in that scene. But in actuality, it's just foreshadowing the fact that he will have to make the same choice that Christopher makes in that episode later on in the season, where he has to choose between BB or being loyal to Buck and Fisk. And I think that was really, really cool, and something that if you're willing to like look beyond the surface, there's so much stuff this season that's beyond the surface that they do visually. And I think there's so many references to other movies and just different shows throughout the season as well. I mean, we talked about the courtroom scene. That courtroom scene in 2-8, that is very clearly their A Few Good Men scene.
Yes,
it's
100%.
very clearly influenced by that. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on beneath the surface. And while people complain that I don't like comparing the show to the Netflix show because they're two different shows and they clearly have two different visions, but people complain that the scenes don't take time to breathe. And I agree, this show does have a bit of a pacing issue, but when you have like visual storytelling going on that they're also missing, I think you have to just kind of meet the show in the middle a little bit and be willing to just actually experience it and not just kind of glance past a lot of this stuff.
No,
I had a
go ahead, Rube.
Yeah, I had a weird experience with Daniel, which I also, at the end of the day, by the end of his arc, I think it worked actually better for me, because just like most of the people, especially Buck in the show, he had to grow on me, like as an act, as a character, and like the decisions he made. I was sitting there like, "Are you serious? What are you doing?" Because I don't know if you're sincere. I don't know if you're not sincere. I don't know if you're gullible. I don't know. Like, you clearly know BB is the one, and you're not. And you keep going back and forth. And then the same went a little bit with Michael Gandolfini's performance as well. And like seeing the arc overall, I was like, "Oh, that was a choice. You have to grow with this guy. You have to, by the end, like doubt everything that he does." And more than that, what made me appreciate it even more was that I like Buck as a character as well, but it's Daniel that makes Buck so much more well-rounded, because those last couple of episodes with him, you start seeing Buck's cracks and see like the whether or not he's the decision he is making to stick with Fisk and not, and it grew him as a character, because Buck is is like the first 6 episodes, a little one note, but a one note that I love. The cheeky English dude that is just so salaciously fun. And then you start seeing the cracks in the facade because of Daniel. So I thought that was really interesting throughout, because those first half of the season, I was like, I can see why people like Michael in this, but I'm a little iffy on him until you got the full picture up.
I'm kind of the same place that you were, Rue. Like, I actually thought I liked Daniel. I understand his character arc, but I do think the show's going to miss him. I kind of wish he had stuck around a little bit longer, but it's the same and also the reverse for me. I am far less interested in Buck now that Daniel is out of his story, because Buck is not a character I've ever been overly interested in, and Daniel was the one who made him interesting. And now that he's gone, yes, he's shown those cracks, but I kind of wish he still had Daniel there for the rest of his story.
So this actually brings me to the question I was about to ask before Roos started talking, and that is, do you guys think they made the right decision by killing off Daniel? Now, Nick, I'm going to push back on what you said a little bit, because they could easily have Daniel still affect Buck going forward, but in like a guilty conscience type of way. So he can, while he's not going to be physically present there, we could still get refilmed flashback moments just like that we never personally saw that happened in that time that ultimately affects Buck in that way, that you still have Michael Gandolfini as part of the cast and crew. But a lot of people don't, or a lot of people are starting to learn that they filmed 2 separate endings, one where Daniel lived and one where Daniel died. So do you guys think they made the right decision to kill Daniel? Nick, I'll let you start since you had something you seemed like you wanted to say.
I'll just say to that point, I don't want that. I think you get that with Foggy, and I don't think we need to give, obviously Foggy is flashbacks and not like a ghost that haunts Matt, but I don't think we need to do that same thing with Daniel when it comes to Buck. I think that if he's gone, let him be gone. And like I said, the character I think had more places to go for the other characters involved, but his singular story, I do think it meant kind of an end, and Daniel's story continues in wherever they go with BB.
Yeah, I mean, I think they made the right decision. I'm going to push back a little bit. I think just to kind of like go on to your point, and then I'll explain why I think they made the right decision. If Buck needs Daniel to be an interesting character, then Buck is not a good character. I think Buck, I'm excited to see where Buck goes in season 3, if he does even come back, because it's beyond just the Daniel of it all now, right? He's haunted by that choice he had to make, where we see him hesitate for the first time. And it definitely mirrors the first time we see him in season 1. Not really the first time, but in the first episode of season 2, where he shoots that guy right in the head, no remorse. And they're kind of like mirror images of each other, that episode 1 and episode 7, where there's hesitation there and there's remorse there. So not only is he like dealing with that choice, but now he also has to deal with the fact that he is detached from this man that he's been loyal to, that he's pledged his loyalty to for so long, because we don't know if he went with Fisk. Did he go with Fisk? If he didn't go with Fisk, where does his arc go now? What is he doing now? Where is he? Like, that's the stuff that I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see evolution and to keep doing the Buck Daniel thing. As much as I loved it and as much as I loved their chemistry, I agree, it would have felt redundant. And what's crazy is they actually didn't film 2 versions of that ending. They only filmed the one version where he lived. And they filmed scenes for episode 8 of him alive. He wasn't supposed to die in the original version. And I even think I haven't listened to it yet, but people were saying, like, even in the official Marvel podcast, he talked about Buck letting him go. Not like they still hadn't come to the decision yet. That was all done in the edit, which is even crazier that it has that much weight to it. And just shows that the show has really good editors too. And if you don't realize that after season 1, I don't know what to tell you, because these editors are fantastic. It's the right decision because Daniel served the purpose of this story. And I think for him to last beyond this Mayor Fisk saga, as I've been calling it, it wouldn't really do his character justice. I think he services the overall story and has the most impact if he dies here. And what made the Netflix Daredevil show so good is it wasn't afraid to kill beloved characters. It killed Ben Urich. It killed Ray Nadeem. He is essentially the Ray Nadeem of this series, an original character that we fell in love with, that had a really tragic tale and made a decision for the greater good but he had to pay for the sins that he committed before that. So I do think they made the right call. And I think continuing Daniel's story would just be kind of spinning the wheels and feeling redundant of other characters that we've seen before.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. I feel like that is the end of his arc. So not only does it serve the arc, but it serves the show. You said it when I was explaining what made this show this season a lot better with the mix. You kept saying the Disneyfication. I for some reason or another, I don't like that statement of Disneyfication of things. A show is a show is a show is a show. Disney make it, Marvel makes it. I understand it, but they needed to do something like that after what they did with White Tiger last season, to continue to say we are not scared to kill off people. So sure, we are a Disney show, but anything that they can do to step away from that label to say, yes, we're on Disney, but we are going to do things like that. I thought it was a beautiful thing, including that final shot of Matt Murdock's ex putting the Muse mask on was another one that was just like, yeah, let's see where this is going. That, like I said, everything it left off with just made me feel like, yeah, the really weird stuff of this finale, they ended it right. They ended it like me feeling like, yes, let's go for season 3, see where this is going.
We'll talk about the Heather Glenn thing in a second, but Monty brought up the thing about Buck, about did he go with this, so on and so forth. There's something I talked about with Monty, and I'm pretty sure I talked about with Nick when we first watched this, which is, so they offered Fisk a deal, and he says, fuck your deal, and then goes off and has a murdering spree, crushing people's skulls, literally killing people, and you still just let him walk free in exile?
See, okay, so we're going to get into it now.
Yeah.
The finale made some decisions. I love the beginning of the courtroom. I love the ending, and then that middle stuff, including partially the Few Good Men stuff, which was good. And then I was like, really? Like, you just let him go? And
Yeah.
He also just agrees. Like, I don't see Kingpin ever agreeing to, like, say, I take the deal. My man from the task force just knocking Powell out and letting them through, like,
Switch
like
sides.
that was part of the finale where I was just like, man, that good 20 minutes before the end and after the first 30, it was just like, ooh, this is a step back. What were those decisions? I don't understand. These decisions are weird. Like, they're fun, but they're weird, bro. They're weird.
Yeah, they're weird. It's a lot of I get it. Like, I get where they're going for. And it's set up in episode 6. The solution is always exile for the two of them.
Yes.
Matt brings it to them, and the reason why it works this time is because originally Matt went to Fisk with this deal. Now that Matt has reestablished his connection with his faith and his Catholicism, and the problem is he went there as Daredevil, so he knew they were going to fight, and he kind of wanted them to fight. He wanted to throw hands, and so now he went there in his different suit. He went there as Matt Murdock to kind of get this deal done, and it works this time. But the reason why I think the show is letting us know he was able to get away with this deal is because, one, I think, and I no one's confirmed this. I've tried to, like, find the answer to this, and I've tried to ask people in the know if this is what the intention was. I think that Mr. Charles was behind the antagonizing of Fisk to the point of pulling an Emperor Nero from Rome, because that's really what that whole finale was. It was him going mad and turning on the people and burning Rome to the ground. But I think that after Charles saves the governor, after Bullseye saves the governor, Mr. Charles was like, hey, I could use this guy. And he sends him to go take out the poser Bullseye. And because if you really think about it, why does Bullseye fire one shot at Buck and then just walks away?
Right.
It's because he wanted to trap Fisk in that building, knowing full well that Fisk was going to go mad and force them to take siege to the building to get him out. And I think
you mean go full Donald Trump?
Yeah, I mean, go full J6 for Democrats or liberals, because that was a fun little mirror as well.
I was just like,
Yeah, so I think the implication there is Charles instigated that whole situation So that's why he was still able to take the deal beyond the fact that all of those people definitely did charge him with the intent to kill him. So in a way, it's self-defense.
Okay,
And
that's
if
the way to look at it.
And Fisk has proven that if you lock him up, he will eventually get out because he is so wealthy and he's so connected that
Also,
he'll
that
definitely,
season 2 scene of him getting out of the prison with that just it harkened
Yeah.
back. I would love to see another one of those. We did see another one of those, basically.
yeah, kind of. And I think this was Charles' way of digging back at him because he knows that exiling Fisk in New York to a place that he hates with sand is the ultimate revenge, because that to him is worse than prison. Because if he's in prison in New York, at least he's still in New York, and at least he can still affect New York from inside of prison. But if you revoke, because not only do they exile him from New York, they exile him from the country. They revoke his citizenship. So yeah, I think that was Mr. Charles getting the last laugh on Fisk for bullying him all season.
Shout out to Matthew Lillard, because also
so good,
beautiful man.
Yes,
so good.
Nick, your thoughts?
Yeah, the finale's interesting. It's funny. I don't want to say an issue, but one thing I have found with the Disney show compared to the Netflix show, because like we said, those comparisons are kind of inevitable, is I feel like they've gotten Charlie Cox to exactly where Matt Murdock is, and I haven't felt like they've gotten Vincent D'Onofrio to the brutality and ruthlessness of Kingpin in the same way that they did in the Netflix show. I'm not scared of him in the same way that I was in the Netflix show. And I think you got to see their version of that in this finale. And it's more than just some guy raging and using his physical power to overpower people. There, like I said, he is a genuinely scary villain when he is at the height of his power. And I like that they kind of let him have that rage moment instead of making him, as you said, Matt, a Donald Trump basically allegory. I liked getting to see the more vicious side of him, and I'm hoping that we get a little bit more of that with what I expect will be bearded Kingpin.
I think that was intentional. I think that they held back on the brutality of Fisk, especially in season 1, because they wanted you to think that maybe he was going to give this mayor thing a shot. Maybe he actually meant what he was saying to Vanessa, and he wanted to, he cared about New York, and he wanted to do all this. But then what we realized in season 2 is all of that was bullshit, and it was just a mask he was putting on. He was fooling himself. Like, he thinks he cares about New York, but first and foremost, he cares about power and about himself. And I think what makes him scary in season 2 is that almost absolute control he has over the city. He has absolute control over the media. He has absolute control over the laws. He has absolute control over the courts. And that's what makes him scary. So to give him a bit of physicality, I mean, that fight scene in episode 6 is probably my favorite of the season. That was pretty damn brutal to just see him ragdoll Matt around like it was nothing. But yeah, I think that the gradual nature of how they revisit Fisk's brutality and rage was definitely intentional, and I really liked seeing it. Definitely crazy to think about that you could just murder like 20 people and just exile. But again, I think that's what Charles represents this season. I think he represents power beyond what we're aware of, power beyond the local government that Matt and Fisk are so used to playing in, that New York sandbox. And power like that is pretty powerful.
Well, you touched on it a little bit, and I think we'd be fools if we ignored it, but we got to talk about the Vanessa of everything. Because that is where you kind of see a shift in Fisk this season, because his anchor is now gone. Like, Vanessa was always his why, and I know because while I had already watched the series, I didn't pay attention to the social media reaction behind each episode, and a lot of people were just like, "Oh my God, Spider-Verse!" I'm like, it's not. We're not going Spider-Verse here, but like, what were your guys' thoughts about them actually being like, you know what, we got to do this? It's just kicking the bucket.
This is the other thing about the Disney Plus show that I don't think that they've nailed 100% is I think the bond between Wilson and Vanessa is so much stronger if you've watched the Netflix show. That they haven't quite articulated that in the same way in the Disney show. Like the memorable Wilson and Vanessa stuff I remember is from the Netflix show. And there's moments here and there. For me personally, I understand her going. I think it was time for her to go. I think it makes sense for the Wilson story. It did not work for me the way they did it. With her having that like second version of life where she doesn't remember she's allergic to pineapple and she wants to continuously know about the first time they met. I know they went for something there, but that didn't work for me in the same way. And then it was just like, oh, she took a turn, she's gone. I don't know what I wanted from that, but I wanted something different from her actual death. But I think the character's death happening makes a lot of sense.
I'm going to disagree with you there on the death. I actually really enjoyed how they ended up playing out the death, but I want to hear everybody's thoughts on that episode because I need to rewatch it because that was the episode I was looking. I was like, do I enjoy this? Am I liking this episode? Am I liking this flashback? I think I am, but I need to rewatch it. But I will say that ending of how they had her with the pineapple, you're like, oh shit, she's about to go, isn't she? Is she about to go or is she just going to have dementia? And the way that happened, I think that was actually a really good way to like give him hope and then tear it away. But in of itself with Vanessa going, I want to hear y'all's thoughts on episode 5 in general, because that's what I've been wondering about this entire season. That's been the big standout of like, did I miss something or do I need to rewatch it? Because it's such a flip of an episode.
I watched it on a binge platform, so because of that, I did enjoy it. It felt like a natural episode to me. I enjoyed getting Foggy back. I enjoyed seeing how strings were pulled to get Wilson and Vanessa to where they were. I enjoyed having why am I forgetting his Monty, help me out here, the other assistant who died in the Netflix show.
Damn it, Wesley.
Thank you. I love getting Wesley back. Like it felt natural to me, and it's the middle point of the season for you to be like, all right, we're giving you this because this moment's about to happen. This is about to be where everything shifts. So episode worked 100% for me, especially its placement in the season.
I think episode 5 is not only the best episode of the season, it's my personal favorite episode of the season. And I think it's some of the best Daredevil stuff we've gotten across all shows, both shows. I think the combination of Angela Barnes directing and Hilary Fife-Spira DPing this episode is just magical. What they were able to do between the transitioning between flashbacks and present day visuals, just some really, really cool stuff was done. But beyond that, this episode is essential to, it's the most essential aspect to the themes of this season, which are like masks and duality and faith and mercy and of course grace. And it's really a resetting of the status quo for Matt and Fisk, whereas this season's kind of bringing them, they really are on mirroring paths this season, whereas they are both one aspect of themselves full-time. I think Fisk is fully Kingpin at the start of the season, whereas Matt is fully Daredevil. And this episode is the great reformer where Matt really starts to shine through and remember, not only does he remember his faith, but he redeems himself when he saves Bullseye in episode 4. I really think that is the turning point for Matt's character arc this season. The original sin of this show is when he attempted to murder Bullseye in episode 1 of season 1. And that's him really giving into his darkest urges, that devil inside of him. And by doing that, by committing that act, he felt unworthy of redemption. He felt unworthy of being saved by his religion. He felt like his soul was damned. So in his mind, saving Bullseye was his way of committing penance, the penance for that sin that he committed. And he was able to find himself again, find his faith again, and keep that memory of Foggy alive. And cutting that important thematic element to his arc with flashbacks of Foggy and using those memories to tell us like this is why he's in this headspace. Foggy is helping him get back to his center. I think it was beautifully done. And then on the inverse of that, you have Fisk, who's also reverting back to a state we saw him at before, but that was the lonely child that we saw him as in the Netflix series by losing Vanessa. And that regression is something that we're seeing in this episode. I think the death scene worked really well because it would have did a disservice to the relationship of those two characters if she died in the boxing ring. I think getting them to that hospital room where they really did a great job on set deck, making it look ethereal, making it look like heavenly in a way, and having her be in that coma and then wake up. The reason why I think she wakes up in a coma is really to kind of hint that she is reborn in a way without sin, without the sins that she committed prior to getting hit in the head with glass by Bullseye. And so that when she dies, she does go to a better place, even though she did some pretty horrible things, because at the end of the day, we all can have some sort of hope in the afterlife. But for me, I think what's really special is just how well they were able to convey the story between two different time periods and have everything tied together beginning to end through that one episode. I think it's just really a fantastic piece of television.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Totally.
I get where you're coming from. I do think one of the important things about Vanessa's death is that it's technically not Bullseye who kills her, because it is blocked by Wilson. And I like that Wilson has a hand in her death. I think that's very important to the story and very important to like his psyche. It's a very good episode. I think episode 4 is probably my favorite because I obviously like the diner opening with Poindexter, because just like you, Rue, I think he is the highlight of the season. And one thing that kind of gets like not spoken about, but even when you see like a movie like Christie, it's not super easy to film an engaging boxing match well. I've seen feature films that fail at it, and they do a good job of that. That is an entertaining fight that they put on in episode 4. So that's why that episode sticks out to me. But 4 and 5 are almost like a two-parter.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that Fisk has a hand in Vanessa's death, because he actually does. In episode 5, when as we see Matt like lean into his faith, like we see Fisk like denounce faith when the doctor brings up like all we can do is hope, and he's like, there is no hope, she will get better, which is essentially him saying there is no like I will it to happen, so it will happen. Like I don't believe in that nonsense. So when she does wake up and a nurse comes in, or I believe it was a nurse, I don't know if it was a doctor, comes in to check on her vitals and check if she's okay, he orders her to go get the pineapple juice. Whereas one could argue if they did that check, they'd realize something was wrong with her, and they probably could have been able to save whatever was going on, whether it was a brain bleed or a clot. They probably would have been able to figure that out and save her.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally
That's why I really enjoyed the manner in which she died. I just think it was. You said it would be a disservice to not let them have, because it goes to your point, Nick, where you don't see that relationship as well, especially if you don't have the background with Netflix. Because I have it, it's not anything I ever thought about. And thinking about how I would feel about their relationship without that background, it's something to think about. But I think that cap is what they needed. They needed that final little interaction. The inverse and like opposites attract of Vanessa and Wilson that always has been there. Even though they low key are the same person, just go about it in different ways. And that same kind of that same kind of relationship is how we see them end. And then the shock in Wilson's face when she finally does go. And poor my dude from Bones, who was the doctor, who was never making it out. You knew he wasn't making it out. Yeah. The awkward hug and everything, and I was like, this is not ending well for you, my guy. I'm sorry.
Honestly, like valid Fisk crash out. That guy came in for a hug. I'm like, that's weird.
Yes. I mean, it's a doctor trying to like.
You ever hug your doctor?
like I've seen it happen where a doctor is like when you've lost someone or things aren't looking well, they do offer comfort of some kind. So
maybe good news, I'd hug my doctor, but I don't think I'd hug them for bad news.
I mean, the bad news had already happened at that point. It was like, I'm sorry that it couldn't work out.
We got the results. The cancer is gone. Oh, doc,
I got the results. Your wife's dead.
Like
we're standing over her body. Yeah, I was like, nah, I'm like, just leave me alone in that situation.
I will say, Rue, I do think my issue with the actual death is I think I would have preferred it if it was the slow style death. Like we can have them have that moment. It's the idea that everything's okay, the rug's pulled up from you, and then she dies. It's very similar to how they kill off, spoiler alert, Jack Pearson in This Is Us, where they're like, he had smoke inhalation, but he's okay. And then they're just like, he's good. And then she goes to the vending machine, she comes back, dead, gone. It got him. And it just feels, there's like an anticlimactic feeling about that, where I understand that they needed their moment. I just wish we got it in a little bit different of a way.
That's
and
so
also
real,
where
though.
Wilson knew it was the end.
But that's like real. In life, you can't prepare for death. You can't. It has to be sudden. It's for most of the time. It's sudden and shocking. So I don't know. That just felt very real and raw to me. And then Vincent's performance, because of that, was fantastic. They just let him play to the camera, and I think it worked so well.
He's great. Like,
all right, Rue. I promise we're going to talk about Heather Glenn, but I do need to talk about that diner scene because that was, in my opinion,
entire opening.
That was the best action scene of the season to me. I know Monty said his Fisk Daredevil fight. That was the scene that has stuck with me this entire season.
The entire opening of episode 4 is brilliant. It is so good. I keep shouting out other shows, but I know Wilson Bethel from Heart of Dixie, and that man had my heart ever since Heart of Dixie. And it just continues here. And just the everything about his OCD and his smile and the drinking the milkshake in one go and saying it was a delicious milkshake while this gets it was so good. It's just so cheeky, so fun, so serious that sometimes I absolutely enjoyed that. And making it, there were parts where they low-key made it feel like a wonder when they were doing it, but not like fully. But it was just beautifully directed, beautifully acted, perfect song choice. Yeah, that episode felt like it could have been a season finale. That is how good that episode was. And the fact that we kept getting great episodes after that. Yeah, loved it.
Yeah, that was the great Jeff Waldron who DP'd that episode, and he's going to be doing season 3 too, parts of season 3. So really excited to see what they do visually on season 3.
Go ahead, Nick.
It's funny because if this wasn't a streaming show, that episode reminded me of something The Walking Dead did a lot, which was like these grandiose mid-season finales halfway through. And I feel like if we weren't in the streaming age, I could totally see those 4 episodes hit. We get to episode 4, it ends. We have a little bit of a break, and then we go into wondering like, oh, is she going to make it? What happens? And then you go right into it. But like Matt said, we watched it all like one after another. So
that week in between was beautiful for me. I'm so ready to come on back.
So listen, I have said numerous times I'm a fan of the week-to-week model. But sometimes as a critic who gets this access, it's like, damn, I can't do week to week. I have this limited window of time to just knock it all out. And it breaks my heart each time because I love the water cooler talk. I mean, it's why think about this. At the end of the day, these bigger bites that we do are just essentially extended water cooler talk because we're getting to talk about all the things we loved about the season and didn't love and everything like that. And speaking of things we loved and didn't love, we're going to get into Heather Glenn now because, man, I loved that her and Karen dick measuring contest in her interrogation. Like,
I really hated that
really
scene.
I can understand why. I loved the petty. Let me hear better way. I loved the pettiness of the scene.
That's why I hated it. I feel like Someone said so. I saw something on Twitter. It was like, this scene feels like it was written by men, and it devolved both of their characters down to fighting over a man, and I think that does such a disservice to Karen's character at this point in the game. And Heather's character arc this season was so messy that I think they could have just did. I really would have liked to have seen them do something different there. Like, I liked when she tried to use the psychoanalysis test on Karen, and Karen realized what she was doing, and she's like, "Yeah, you're gaming the system. I already know this. Like, let's move on." But then once it got to like
the personal,
the boy likes me and he doesn't like you. I'm like, it made it feel so cheap, and it made Heather's arc. It made me way more confused about what was going on with Heather. I really liked how they were easing us into like the Heather arc, and there was that little bit of, is Muse possessing her? Is he not? And then they kind of just like drop that. She disappears for like 4 episodes. Then she pops back up again, and she's like, "I'm full crazy now." And I'm like, "That's interesting."
Listen,
Choice.
Margarita has done a fantastic job.
She's great.
With not a lot to work with.
Exactly.
Like even in season 1, not a lot to work with. Season 2, even less to work with in regards to her character. So I'm hoping when we get her as Muse in season 3, and we're now you have a chance to talk about this. I'm hoping they finally give her something real to work with, because she's such a fantastic actress. I liked the Acolyte. I loved her character in the Acolyte, even if it was for a one-off episode. But yeah, she does such a great job with such mad stuff to work with. And listen, you gotta enjoy a little bit of cattiness every once in a while. Just a little bit.
I do in small doses. That was not a small dose.
No, it was not a small dose.
That was a large dose.
Before I let you go in, Rue, I'll just say I am not a fan of Heather's character. I liked the very beginning where they kind of teased the reaction to Muse, and I'm just like you, Monty. When they brought it back to this was Daredevil's girlfriend bullshit, didn't work for me. And then when she put the mask on at the end, I'm like, this would have made sense after episode 1, but how did we get all the way back here again when we had this stupid little mid part? So yeah, her character didn't work for me, but I like the idea of her becoming Muse. So I have hope that she'll have a more successful season 3.
So for me, it was actually her and Kirsten that got me to be like, finally, they actually have these characters doing something outside of Matt. So, and I was at episode 4 specifically for Heather, where I was like, all right, cool. They gave her something to do. They gave her that arc. And I'm like you, Monty, if they could just take that scene out and leave it over here. And even her absence, the little things with Fisk, stealing the earring and the little bits here and there. I was good with that arc. I actually really enjoyed that arc, minus real time when that scene with her and Karen happened. I was like, this is different and weird.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's over now, and I'm gonna put this over there and just take episodes 1 through 4, the little bit we got to 5. I see Muse, and she put it on. I was like, yeah, we're gonna ignore that little thing, that little blip in the middle right there. But her and is it Nikki M. James? I think is her name.
Yes.
Kirsten. I kind of mirrored those two together in terms of like Kirsten's character was growing and doing stuff outside of Matt alongside Heather, and then when they dropped Heather, I just stuck with her, because I thought she was amazing throughout the entirety of the series. And I was really like, honestly, she's the one who leads the courtroom, the courtroom scenes, along with John Benjamin Hickey, who's a great slime ball actor. Like, he does slime ball so very damn well. So the two of them together, I really loved. I like her becoming Muse. I saw it. Again, minus that little scene. And again, I'm very excited about where she is going to be going with that after, because I did think it was earned.
It's weird, right? It's the worst kept secret of the whole season that she's going to become Muse by the end of the season. Like, we knew it was coming, and it felt satisfying at first. But that's the reason why that scene feels so wrong with her and Karen, is it makes both of their stories center on Matt, and that's not what again, and that's not what Heather's story is. We know Heather has been obsessed with masks since before she met Matt because she wrote a book on it. So she's obsessed with that idea of duality, and maybe because there's a split personality there, maybe, you know, she's being possessed by Muse. But I like that not knowing. I like that there's something boiling under the surface. And then when you put that scene in, it's like, no, she's going crazy because the boy left her to go be with the other girl. And I think that does such a disservice to all of the development that they were giving both Karen and Heather this season. And that kind of knocks them both down a little bit before the finale, which is really unfortunate because I think some of the Heather stuff was really cool. I like how they skew the camera angle whenever she starts to like dip into madness. Big part of the season is using mirrors as a way to showcase masks or duality in characters. And the fact that every time she looked in the mirror, she saw Muse until the very end when she put the mask on and she saw herself because now she's really herself. Like really great stuff that then gets watered down by some of the bad choices that they do.
They got an entire season, hopefully, to redeem that, Monty.
Yeah, and they will. I'm very confident they will. But, you know, we're talking about season 2, so we have to talk about the bad with the good.
We can talk about the hopes of season 3 along the way.
We have to be objective. I'm trying to be objective. We haven't gotten to our hopes for season 3 yet, Matt. Okay.
And this is the segue to that. So, I mean, perfect. Because we do need to wrap up. We're going on for nearly an hour. But there's been so much we've been able to dive into in this time. I know we're missing characters like Angela and Jessica. So real quick, before we dive into closing this out and talking about the hopes for season 3, just some quick thoughts on both the return of Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Angela taking up the White Tiger mantle. General thoughts. We'll start with you, Rue.
I'm actually going to pull that into my thoughts to season 3. I'll start with Angela. I just thought she was a great follow-up. They used her well. They used her right. They didn't she's still a kid. So they made the use of her as a kid to keep her out of danger until the end where you saw that she's like, fuck everybody. And I was like, all right, I'm good with this because you waited to the end where she has to fight her way out and you see the White Tiger powers kind of coming in outside of just sneaking and stuff. I want them so badly to do what they did this season, especially with my boy Luke, because I am very interested in what he was doing and his story with Jessica. Keep it a Daredevil show and just sprinkle them in enough where it doesn't seem gratuitous and they naturally come in and they naturally go out. Keep that going, please, until you bring them back properly. And just put Danny Rand in there so Luke can punch the shit out of him one more time and get him the fuck out of here.
We know that's happening at this point.
But Nick, I say that to say this. I really like the way they brought Jessica in because it was more than a glorified cameo, but it wasn't her taking over at any point. It felt natural and just the right amount where there's a reason she's here, but it's still a Daredevil show. This is not Defenders 1.5.
Nick, your thoughts?
Honestly, I don't have much more to say than what Rue said. I think that they did a good job of bringing in Jessica with her feeling organic to the story and not feeling like a gimmick, and also not taking over the story that they were telling. I think they fit her in as well as you could have fit her into that arc. So I was happy with her.
Monty.
Yeah, I love what they did with Jessica. I think it was just enough. They gave me everything I expected to get. They gave us Danielle. They gave us the kind of tease of what she and Luke have been up to in that 10-year period since we last saw them. That's all I really needed. And the fact that she was there for so many episodes, I was actually surprised. I thought we were going to get her for 1. We ended up getting her for 3, which was really, really cool. Beyond that, like the Angela stuff, I think was integral to this season. I think that the scale of this season is so big and the story they're trying to tell is so big that it needed to move beyond Fisk and Matt's POVs, and it needed to incorporate New York citizens to tell a story about the fight for the soul of New York. So characters like Angela, characters like Pal, Cole North, Daniel, they're very important to this story because we need to see how these two kings on a chessboard are slowly poisoning both sides of this war as things escalate to their natural progression, which is a violent and bloody end. And to see Angela kind of go from someone who's just trying to live her life to now having to be a part of this revolution, this resistance, is really interesting. And I think you need that. I think you need that story. And for people to complain that Matt didn't have a lot of screen time this season, I would argue it's because the scale of this season was so big that they needed to have all of these characters. And I will segue that into my hopes for season 3, which is I hope for a more grounded season 3 that is able to focus on a limited number of characters more and tell a smaller, more self-contained story now that we're not dealing with the entire state of New York and a fight for its soul.
I hope you're right, because based off of the leaks that certain actors have posted themselves, I don't know if that's going to happen.
I mean, I think Dario Scartapino, who is the showrunner, basically kind of said what Luke is doing in season 3 without saying it. He's like, if you know what clothes he's wearing, you can probably guess his arc. And so it's probably going to have to do with the mayoral seat of New York. And he's going to be fighting Sheila.
All right, Pat, you're the comic guy. Give fans a little hint of what they might be able to expect then.
Okay, so after Devil's Reign, which is this arc in the comic book that has Daredevil and all of New York street heroes take down Mayor Fisk, Luke Cage then becomes mayor of New York. So just the art of that arc in the comics, he's wearing the suit that we see him wearing in the leak. I'm going to say leaked because they're not leaked. I mean, those are professional quality photos. Like, those are not leaked photos. They say they're leaked, but they're not. Photos of season 3, we see Mike Coulter wearing a very similar outfit. And since New York kind of doesn't have a full-time mayor, they have an interim mayor, or, Sheila is...
Who we see in the Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer.
Yeah. Maybe Luke's deciding to throw his hand into the political ring now that we know that he's traveled the world and seen some, who knows, probably some messed up things working for Mr. Charles. I know Jessica saw some messed up things, which is Mr. Charles sleeping. But beyond that, I think it's I'm really interested to see where they go. And I think incorporating Luke in that way to tell a New York story, to tie in these characters, these side characters up, I think works really well. And I hope it will have synergy with the season and doesn't feel out of place, And
the thing is, they have to address who's the mayor of New York now. So that seems like a natural overarching thing, and hopefully still a smaller grounded season to work out. And again, just put him in there here and there and make it feel natural without feeling like it's a cash grab or whatever.
Yeah.
Nick, your thoughts?
Yeah, I want to see a more grounded story. I don't want to see it get bogged down by too many characters. Not that this one did, but I feel like if they go forward with that even more, like Ruth said, I don't want to see another Defenders. I want to see Powell get it, not because he's a bad actor or anything, but every time I see that guy on screen, I just want to see him get killed. And I'm hoping I finally get to see that in season 3. He's done enough wrong in that world. And I want to see Wilson and Matt with beards.
Yeah.
The only thing I want to see in season 3 is I want to see my boy Turk back. I was waiting for Turk, and I need that man back. That's the only thing I missed this season.
Oh my God. I feel like I need to bring this up, and we end the show with this question as much as we just talked about season 3, because this has been one of the biggest question marks and criticisms of this show since it first aired its premiere episode. Do y'all still think Foggy is alive, or is this homie dead?
He's dead.
He's dead.
The man is gone. Foggy's out.
I'm going to answer your question and then raise you one. Not only, he is very dead.
Okay.
But they should just bring him back anyway. They should.
Yes.
He's dead, and he needed to be dead in order for those first 2 seasons to work. Because if he was secretly alive, I do agree with the showrunner that a lot of that impact would have been lost on Matt's whole story arc revolving around Foggy's death. But now that he's been dead and gone, bring him back. I mean, the Hand, have the Hand want Matt to be their leader, want Daredevil to be their leader, and they use Foggy to manipulate him by threatening to bring him back to life, and then they do. And then he's back. I don't care. Get stupid with it. Be more comic booky. That's my problem with this show and the point of view that Charlie and Vincent have on these characters. They want them to be too grounded. And Daredevil is not a very grounded character. One of my favorite runs of this character is the Mark Waid run, and shit gets silly there. So I just for my hopes for season 3, just get a little silly. Just get a little comic book. You could still be grounded and serious and dramatic, but don't be afraid to lean into the more comic book stuff. You're in the MCU, and you technically brought back like 3 characters from the dead already in Daredevil. So, you know, what's stopping you?
Agreed. I agree with what you just said, because listen, I need my Bash brother back, man.
Absolutely.
It's Foggy's actually, I hate saying this. Other Netflix show, Foggy was my favorite fucking character. I absolutely love he's so relatable, and just overall good guy. Had such a future. Netflix show gets canceled, and we got to see him come to terms with Matt about their life, but we never got to see how that piece went forward, or if there were bumps. So there's still a part of me that's like, man, I agree with y'all. This motherfucker's dead, but I need more. I need more Foggy. Bring him back. I'm with Monty.
It's a comic book show. Anybody who's died is liable to come back at any point in time.
And you are officially in the MCU now. We've seen crazy shit happen in the MCU and still be grounded as fuck.
Yeah, like I seen Charlie just recently say like how much he didn't like the idea of the Purple Children and retconning Matt's identity. And I'm like, yeah, you could feel that way, but stop saying it out loud. Like, give us, like, when you say stuff like that out loud, it's just like, we get it. You love Frank Miller. Like, who doesn't love Frank Miller? But there are other Daredevil runs. Like, let's embrace like some of the Wade stuff. Let's embrace some of the Brubaker stuff. You know, it's just like, I think one of the best traits of Daredevil is how that character has been reinvented by every creative team that has touched it. And to kind of keep things the same would be weird. So I really like the reinvention they're going for in season 3. And I hope we can kind of do something a little different. The Hand is probably coming back. We see them in the Spider-Man trailer. You know, let's do some mystical stuff. Let's get weird.
Yeah. So I think we nailed it, guys. So Monty, where can the good people find you?
You guys can find me anywhere online at the Montyverse, except on Instagram. It's just Montyverse because someone stole my the. So it's just at Montyverse on Instagram.
And he's got a website. Got to mention that website because I know you've shifted a lot of your reviews to the website, correct?
Yeah, a lot of like movie reviews and stuff are on the website for now until I kind of like figure out the new direction for the YouTube channel.
Okay. And he does fantastic reactions. If you guys like Power Rangers, this dude's done some in-depth Power Ranger stuff. I'm not gonna push him to continue. I mean, look at all of his stuff. Like I've known him for a few years now. I can say his backdrop is just all the bits of his personality that I love and make him such an amazing human being. You can always find Nick and Rue on here on the Bitesize website where they do their reviews and articles. You can find me here hosting the Bigger Bite and my personal YouTube channel, What Real Entertainment. We finally hit 750. Hopefully that means we're going to start going up more. I'd love that. But until then, folks, thank you again to Monty for joining us. Thank you guys for tuning in and signing off. I am Matt. That is Rue. That is Monty. And that was Nick. And this is another episode of A Bigger Bite. We'll see you next time.
Peace.